Sam gently pushed Link's wheelchair down the hallway of the courthouse medical wing. The fluorescent lights hummed quietly above them. Link stared at the floor. "The judge should have just given me the death penalty right away," he muttered. Sam stopped walking for a moment and knelt in front of him. "Link, you didn't even listen to what the judge was saying," Sam said softly. Link looked up with tired eyes. "I heard enough." Sam shook his head. "No, the judge said he isn't giving you the death penalty right now. He wants the doctors to examine you first. He thinks something might be wrong with your health, maybe even your brain after everything that happened." Link frowned. "So what, they think I'm broken?" Sam sighed. "No, they think you might need help." A nurse opened the door to the medical office. "Mr. Link, the doctor is ready for you." Sam started pushing the wheelchair again. Link whispered, "If the doctor says I'm fine, the judge will still do it." Sam placed a hand on Link's shoulder. "We'll deal with that later. Right now, we just focus on getting you through today." Inside the room, the doctor looked up from a clipboard. "Hello, Link," the doctor said calmly. "The judge asked me to evaluate you. This isn't a punishment. This is to understand what you've been through." Link stayed quiet. Sam spoke gently beside him. "Just talk to him, Link, one step at a time." Link finally nodded, a little unsure but willing to try. Sam sat quietly in the corner of the doctor's office, watching Link carefully. She kept her arms folded, but her face showed worry. The doctor looked down at his notes, then back at Link. Link spoke flatly. "Look, I killed my brother. He had SMA. He was abused by his old caregiver, and I thought his life wasn't worth living, so I ended it. I overdosed him with sleeping pills through his feeding pump." Sam's eyes widened, but she stayed quiet. The doctor leaned back slightly. "The judge told me something important, Link. He said you showed no emotion when talking about your brother or the elderly man who died." Link shrugged a little. "He was trying to teach me a lesson," Link said. "He kept talking about cancer and how people suffer, like I was supposed to feel something for them." The doctor folded his hands. "How did you feel about the patient who had cancer?" the doctor asked calmly. Link answered without hesitation. "I did what I had to do." Sam shifted in her chair, clearly uncomfortable hearing that. The doctor continued carefully. "And after that man died, what did you feel?" Link stared straight ahead. "I had a job to do, I did it." The room went quiet. Sam finally spoke, her voice soft but shaken. "Link, those were people." Link didn't look at her. The doctor wrote something on the chart, then looked up again. "Link," he said gently, "sometimes when people go through a lot of trauma or pressure, they shut down their emotions to survive. What I'm trying to understand is whether you truly feel nothing, or whether you buried those feelings so deep you can't reach them." Sam slowly moved closer to Link's wheelchair. "You're not alone in this room," she said. "You can actually talk." Link stayed silent for a moment, staring at the floor. The doctor waited patiently, knowing this moment might decide what he tells the judge next. The doctor stayed very still after hearing that. Link sat in the wheelchair, his expression calm and almost distant. "My childhood was great," Link said. "Nothing bad happened to me. I just don't believe disabled people, kids or adults, should exist." Sam's head snapped up. "Link." The doctor raised a hand slightly to keep the room calm. "Why do you believe that?" the doctor asked carefully. Link shrugged. "Because that's not a life," Link said plainly. "I just feel sorry for them." Sam looked upset now. "So your answer is that they shouldn't live," she said, disbelief in her voice. Link didn't react much. "I have that opinion," he said. "I'm not angry at them, I just think it's better." The doctor leaned forward in his chair. "Link," he said slowly, "there are millions of people with disabilities who live meaningful lives. They work, they have families, they love people, and people love them." Link stared ahead. "That's your opinion," he replied. Sam stepped closer to him. "My cousin uses a wheelchair," she said quietly. "He's one of the happiest people I know." Link didn't answer. The doctor wrote more notes on the clipboard. "Link," he said calmly, "part of my job is to understand how your beliefs connect to your actions asterisk. The court needs to know whether you understood the value of the lives around you when those events happened." Link finally looked at him. "I understood," he said. Sam's voice softened. But do you understand now? The room went silent again as the doctor watched Link carefully, knowing the answer could determine what he tells the judge about Link's state of mind. The room went tense after Link said that. Link leaned back slightly in the wheelchair, frustration finally showing on his face. So what? Link said bitterly. My family and the court are attacking me because of what I believe in, fuck me, right? Sam took a slow breath, trying not to react with anger. Link, she said firmly but calmly, no one is attacking you for having an opinion. Link looked at her sharply, really? The doctor spoke in a steady voice. You're not on trial for your beliefs, the doctor said. People are allowed to believe many different things. He paused before continuing. You're here because people died. Link's jaw tightened. The court's job is to determine why those actions happened and whether you understood the consequences. Link looked away toward the window. Sam stepped a little closer. This isn't about punishing you for thinking something, she said quietly. It's about what happened to your brother and the other man. Link stayed silent. The doctor wrote something else on the chart, then looked up again. Right now, Link, I'm trying to understand your mindset, the doctor explained. The judge asked me a simple question: do you feel empathy for the people who died? Sam watched Link carefully, worried about what he might say next. Link sat there for a long moment, the quiet filling the room. The doctor waited patiently, knowing this answer might shape the report he sends back to the judge. The doctor looked at Link carefully after hearing that. What about elderly people who become disabled? The doctor asked. Link answered without much hesitation. They already had a life, Link said. They had families, jobs, experiences, and usually someone close to them helps take care of them. It's different. Sam shifted uncomfortably in her chair. The doctor continued, trying to understand. So you're saying that if someone becomes disabled later in life, it's acceptable to you because they already lived their life? Link nodded slightly. Yes. The doctor wrote something down, then asked the next question. So in your mind, he said slowly, a young person who is born with a disability or becomes disabled early in life can't have a meaningful life. Link paused for a moment. I know how it sounds, Link said, but yes, that's what I believe. Sam shook her head quietly. Link, there are kids with disabilities who grow up to become teachers, artists, scientists, people who change other people's lives. Link stared at the floor. That's your view, he replied. The doctor placed the pen down for a moment. Link, he said calmly, part of my evaluation is understanding whether your beliefs are rigid or whether you're capable of questioning them. People often change how they see the world when they're exposed to different experiences. Sam leaned forward slightly. Has anyone ever challenged that belief before? She asked softly. Link didn't answer right away. The doctor watched him closely, knowing this conversation would be important when he writes his report for the judge. The room stayed quiet, waiting to see if Link would say anything more. Link sat quietly in the examination room, staring at the floor. Wait here, the doctor said. I need to speak with Sam in the corridor. It'll only take a minute. Link nodded, okay. Sam followed the doctor out of the room and the door closed softly behind them. They stepped a few feet down the hallway so Link couldn't hear. Sam looked worried. What is it? The doctor lowered his voice. Sam, I need to be very clear with you, he said. Link's thinking shows some extremely dangerous ideological patterns. Sam frowned. What do you mean? The doctor sighed. He's expressing beliefs that certain groups of people shouldn't exist because of disability. Historically, that kind of thinking is very similar to the ideology promoted by Adolf Hitler. Sam's eyes widened. You mean like eugenics? She asked quietly. Yes, the doctor said, but in Link's case the focus isn't on ethnicity or religion, it's specifically directed toward disabled people. Sam leaned against the wall, clearly shaken. So what does that mean for him? It means I have to report to the judge that Link has extreme and rigid beliefs about the value of human life asterisk, the doctor explained. That doesn't automatically mean he's insane, but it does mean his mindset played a major role in the crimes. Sam rubbed her forehead. I thought maybe he was just numb or traumatized. He might still be, the doctor said, But right now he shows asterisk asterisk no empathy and no doubt about what he did asterisk asterisk. Sam looked back toward the door where Link was waiting. So what happens next? The doctor took a breath. I finish my report, he said, and the judge decides whether Link is mentally competent and what the next step in the trial will be. Sam stood there silently for a moment, realizing how serious the situation had become. Inside the room, Link was still waiting alone, unaware of what the doctor had just said about him. Sam stepped farther down the corridor and pulled out her phone. Her hands were still shaking a little as she dialed Billy. Billy answered after a moment. Sam, what's going on? Sam spoke quietly so Link wouldn't hear through the door. Billy, the doctor just finished part of the evaluation. He said Link is showing thinking patterns similar to the ideology of Adolf Hitler. Billy sounded confused on the other end. Wait, Hitler hated Jewish people. Sam nodded even though Billy couldn't see her. Yes, the hatred Hitler spread toward Jewish people led to the Holocaust. Billy asked, so what does that have to do with Link? Sam explained slowly. Link isn't targeting Jewish people, she said, but the asterisk type of thinking asterisk is similar. He believes people with disabilities shouldn't exist. The doctor said it's the same kind of extreme belief system deciding that some lives have less value. Billy was silent for a few seconds. Wow, he finally said, that's really bad. Sam looked back at the door to the exam room. The doctor thinks Link truly believes it, she said. He doesn't sound angry, he just thinks he's right. Billy exhaled heavily. So what happens now? The doctor is writing a report for the judge, Sam said. This could change everything about the trial. Billy's voice lowered. Sam, do you think Link understands how wrong this is? Sam looked down the hallway unsure. I don't know, she admitted quietly. Right now it doesn't seem like he does. Inside the room, Link was still waiting alone, unaware of the serious conversation happening outside about his beliefs. The door opened and Sam walked back into the room with the doctor. Link looked up immediately. His voice sounded different than before, less cold, more uncertain. So, Link said quietly, I'm going to be killed, right? Sam stopped beside his wheelchair. Link rubbed his hands together nervously. I don't know why I feel this way, he said, but I just do. The doctor pulled his chair closer so he could look Link in the eye. Link, the court hasn't made that decision, the doctor said calmly. Right now my job is only to evaluate you and report what I see. Link looked down at the floor. It just feels like that's where this is going, he muttered. Sam spoke gently. You sound scared, she said. Link frowned slightly. I don't think I'm scared, he replied. It's just a feeling. The doctor studied him for a moment. Sometimes people feel something like that when reality starts catching up with them, the doctor said. Not because someone told them the outcome, but because they're realizing how serious the situation is. Link stayed quiet. Sam knelt slightly so she was closer to his level. Link, she said softly, right now what matters is being honest with the doctor and with yourself. Link looked at her for a moment. I was honest, he said. I told him what I believe. The doctor nodded. And that honesty is important, he replied. But part of this evaluation is also understanding how you're feeling right now. Link looked back at the floor again. For the first time since the interview started, he didn't seem confident, just uncertain. The room went quiet as the doctor prepared to ask the next question that might help him understand what was going on inside Link's mind. Link's hands gripped the wheelchair arms tightly. His voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. Doctor, I don't want to be this way, he said, eyes glistening. And I love Vin, but I was with him alone for the first time. Sam stiffened, hearing the shift in his tone. The doctor leaned forward slightly, his expression calm but firm. Link, you've never actually been alone with Vin before, he said. Not truly alone, not in a situation like this. Link's gaze didn't leave the floor. Yes, he said quietly, almost to himself. Because I knew this would happen, and it did. Sam took a careful step closer, her voice softer this time. What do you mean this would happen? Link's jaw tightened. I knew that being with him, alone, I'd feel things I wasn't supposed to feel, he muttered. Things I can't control. The doctor nodded slowly, taking notes but keeping his focus on Link. Link, what you're feeling is not wrong, it's human. It doesn't make you a bad person, but you need to understand it and you need help to manage it. That's why the judge asked me to evaluate you. Link's hands trembled slightly on the wheelchair arms. I just feel trapped in myself, he admitted, and I didn't want to feel this, but I do. Sam reached out and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Link, you're not alone in this. We'll figure it out, but first you need to be honest about these feelings. Link looked at her for the first time, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. I'm scared, he whispered. The doctor kept his voice steady, comforting. And it's okay to be scared, Link. Recognizing that fear, that's the first step. The room fell silent, the weight of his confession lingering in the air, but for the first time it felt like a small crack had opened in the wall Link had built around himself. The room went completely silent after Link's confession. Sam's hand tightened on his shoulder and the doctor's pen paused mid-note. Link's voice trembled, raw and urgent. Max was sick, he said, looking down at his hands. And you and Dad were both out with John, so I had to put Vin in bed, change his diaper, and the next second I got Vin's nighttime formula and G-tube stuff, and in a second I got the sleep pills. He swallowed hard, his body trembling. I took 21 pills and put them in the formula, he whispered. I tried to stop myself, but I was going into autopilot like my body was being controlled by someone else. I'm so sorry, Mom. Sam's eyes filled with tears. She knelt closer to him, keeping her voice calm but shaking slightly. Link, oh honey, she said softly. I know you feel guilty, but you need to understand what happened isn't just about your actions. We have to figure out why your body and mind acted that way, ***. Link's shoulders shook. I couldn't stop myself, he said, voice breaking. I didn't mean it. I love Vin, I love him so much, I just. The doctor leaned in, speaking gently. Link, what you're describing sounds like a dissociative episode. Your mind reacted to extreme stress in a way that you couldn't consciously control. That doesn't excuse what happened, but it helps explain how it happened, ***. Sam brushed his hair back from his forehead. You have to understand, Link, telling the truth is the only way forward. We're going to get you help, but first you have to stay here, stay calm, and let us guide you. Link nodded weakly, tears sliding down his face. I don't want to hurt anyone ever again, he whispered. The doctor wrote more notes quietly, then looked up at Sam. This will be very important for the judge to know. It explains that his actions weren't entirely voluntary, they were partly the result of a psychological break. Sam reached for Link's hand. Everything going to be okay, baby, she said softly. We'll get through this together. For the first time, Link allowed himself to shake openly, letting his guilt and fear pour out, while Sam and the doctor simply stayed with him, silent witnesses to his pain. Link slumped back in the wheelchair, his hands gripping the arms loosely. His voice was quieter now, almost weary. I knew that I had to turn Vin in his bed every 2 hours, he said, and low-key I didn't want to do that. Sam's expression softened, though she remained serious. It's normal to feel overwhelmed with responsibilities like that. Link, she said gently. Link shook his head slightly. And I already told you the rest, already, he said, his voice tired, almost like he wanted the conversation to end. The doctor nodded, writing something down slowly. I understand, Link, he said calmly. You've been honest about everything so far, that's the most important part. What I need to do next is make sure the judge and the court understand the context of your actions, how fear, stress, and dissociation all played a role. Link looked at the floor, silent. Sam leaned closer and put a hand on his shoulder. You've done the hard part, baby, she said softly. Now it's up to us to help you and Vin to stay safe. You're not alone in this. Link nodded slowly, still quiet, but the tension in his shoulders had eased just a fraction. For the first time, he allowed himself to simply breathe without thinking about the weight of everything he had done. The doctor glanced at Sam. We'll finish the evaluation, then I'll explain everything clearly to the judge. This is going to matter for how Link is treated moving forward. Sam squeezed Link's shoulder gently. Everything going to be okay, baby, we'll handle it together. After leaving Link and Sam in the room, Dr. Smith closed the door quietly and returned to his office. The fluorescent lights hummed softly as he set down his clipboard and began typing up his report. He typed carefully, making sure every word reflected what he had observed. To Judge Joanne. Ray psychological evaluation Link last name. Dr. Smith paused to collect his thoughts. He had to be precise. This report could influence whether Link was seen as criminally responsible or as someone who acted under severe psychological distress. He wrote, Link exhibits a complex psychological profile. On the surface, he expresses rigid and extreme beliefs regarding the value of human life, particularly regarding individuals with disabilities. These beliefs mirror, in ideological structure, historical extremist thinking, though they are not directed toward ethnic or religious groups. He continued, his fingers moving quickly over the keyboard. During the evaluation, Link admitted to actions that resulted in the death of his brother and placed Vin at risk. He described these actions as being carried out in a state of dissociation or autopilot, behaviors in which he had little conscious control due to acute stress and psychological pressure. He reported feeling unable to prevent his actions despite knowing the moral and practical consequences. Dr. Smith leaned back, rubbing his eyes. He had to make sure the report was clear but also compassionate where appropriate. Link has demonstrated awareness of the consequences of his actions, and he experiences guilt and fear. He also expresses love and attachment to Vin, indicating that his capacity for empathy is present, but his extreme stress triggers maladaptive and dangerous responses. Finally, he added his professional recommendation. It is my professional assessment that Link requires intensive psychiatric care and monitoring. He is capable of understanding moral and legal responsibility in general, but in moments of extreme stress, he is prone to dissociative episodes that compromise his ability to control his actions. Consideration of these factors is critical in determining appropriate legal outcomes. Dr. Smith printed the report, reviewed it one last time, and signed it. He then prepared to hand it over to Judge Joanne, knowing it would be a pivotal piece in deciding Link's fate. Outside the office, the courthouse corridors were quiet, but the weight of what the report contained would soon ripple through the courtroom and the family. Judge Joanne sat behind her bench, the report from Dr. Smith open in front of her. She ran a hand through her hair, frowning as she read through Link's evaluation. Finally, she picked up the phone and dialed Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith, her voice firm, I've read your report. This guy, he has Hitler-like tendencies but directed toward disabled people, not ethnic groups. Dr. Smith's voice came through clearly. Yes, Your Honor, he expresses extreme beliefs that certain lives, specifically those with disabilities, aren't worth living. However, he did show remorse about his brother. He stated that he felt compelled to act as he did, believing he had to end it for his brother. Judge Joanne pinched the bridge of her nose, exhaling sharply. And you truly believe he acted under stress and dissociation? Yes, Your Honor, Dr. Smith replied. His actions indicate a state of autopilot. He reported feeling unable to control his body during the episode with Vin, even though he was aware of the moral consequences. Joanne leaned back in her chair. All right, Dr. Smith, be in court for the next hearing. We'll review this evaluation in full with the defense, prosecution, and family present. Dr. Smith's voice was firm, professional. Copy, Your Honor. Judge Joanne hung up the phone and stared at the report again, her brow furrowed. This case just got a lot more complicated, she muttered to herself. Mental state, extreme ideology, dissociation, the court has to tread carefully. She looked out over the empty courtroom below, knowing that the next hearing would be critical for Link, for Vin, and for the family watching every move. The courtroom was quiet as Judge Joanne called the session to order. Her voice was firm, carrying across the benches. Link Parker, she said, looking directly at him, you saw Dr. Smith as you agreed previously. Link nodded, yes, Your Honor. Very well, Judge Joanne continued. Dr. Smith, please take the stand. Dr. Smith rose and approached the witness box, placing the report on the stand in front of him. He looked at Link briefly, then at the judge, maintaining a professional demeanor. Judge Joanne turned back to Link. Link, at this time you do not require a wheelchair for today's proceedings. You may stand if you are able. Link hesitated for a moment, then slowly stood. His movements were deliberate but steady. The courtroom noticed the change immediately. He appeared more in control of himself physically, even if the tension in his expression remained. Judge Joanne nodded. "Thank you, Dr. Smith. Please explain your findings to the court, focusing on Link's psychological state and the circumstances surrounding the incidents he described." Dr. Smith cleared his throat. "Yes, Your Honor. Link exhibits extreme beliefs regarding individuals with disabilities which mirror the structure of historically dangerous ideologies, though not directed toward ethnic or religious groups. However, these beliefs coexist with dissociative behaviors and intense stress responses. During critical moments, Link reported feeling that his body and actions were not fully under his conscious control, particularly in the incidents involving his brother and Vin." He glanced briefly at Link, then continued. "He also demonstrates awareness of his actions and experiences guilt and fear regarding those events. My assessment is that he requires intensive psychiatric monitoring, and the court should take into account that his behavior was influenced by psychological distress rather than premeditated malice alone." Judge Joanne listened intently, scribbling notes as Dr. Smith spoke. The courtroom remained silent, all eyes on the unfolding testimony. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Joanne's words echoed across the benches. She fixed her gaze on Link Parker. "Mr. Parker," she began, her voice firm but heavy with the weight of the decision, "how do you feel after seeing Dr. Smith?" Link looked up, voice quiet but steady. "I am okay, Your Honors." Judge Joanne's expression hardened. "I'm glad you feel okay, but unfortunately, Vin Parker cannot feel anything now because of your actions. I have considered all aspects of this case carefully. I have made my verdict." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Dr. Smith, still at the stand, spoke up, his voice cautious. "Your Honor, there was no jury involved in this case." Judge Joanne nodded, her decision resolute. "Link Parker, I hereby sentence you to the death penalty by injection." The gavel came down with a sharp crack. "Court is adjourned." The sound of the gavel seemed to hang in the air long after it struck. The room was heavy with shock, grief, and disbelief. Sam's face went pale, tears forming in her eyes while Link sat frozen, processing the weight of the words. Even Dr. Smith's usual calm demeanor showed a flicker of unease as he realized the gravity of the sentence he had just witnessed. The bailiffs moved to escort Link out, and the murmurs of the courtroom grew louder as the reality of the verdict settled over everyone present. The tension in the courtroom spiked as John Parker stood abruptly, his face flushed with anger. "Your Honor," John shouted, "you're going too far." Judge Joanne's gaze didn't waver, her voice was sharp. "Mr. Parker, do you wish to contest my ruling?" John hesitated, then said, "Yes." Judge Joanne leaned forward slightly. "Very well, because of this outburst and the manner in which you addressed the court, I am finding you in contempt of court." John's eyes widened. "That's not fair," he shouted. Judge Joanne's voice was firm and final. "Mr. Parker, you are in contempt. Bailiffs, escort him from the courtroom until he can conduct himself appropriately." Two bailiffs stepped forward, moving toward John. He resisted for a moment, struggling with the weight of anger and disbelief. "Your Honor, this isn't right," John protested as they guided him toward the door. Judge Joanne remained impassive, her pen poised over her notes. "Order must be maintained," she said quietly, though with unmistakable authority. The courtroom settled into an uneasy silence as John was led out, the echo of his protests lingering. Sam sat rigid, watching the events unfold, while Link remained silent, trying to process the rapid and intense proceedings around him. The courtroom fell into a tense, suffocating silence after Judge Joanne spoke. "Tomorrow morning, 8:00 a.m., she said, her voice cold and steady, "Link Parker will receive the injection." Sam felt a chill run down her spine. She gripped the edge of the bench, her knuckles white, unable to look away from Link. His eyes were wide, staring blankly at the floor as if the words hadn't fully registered yet. The bailiffs began to move toward Link, preparing to escort him from the courtroom. Link's voice was almost a whisper, trembling slightly. "Tomorrow morning, 8:00. Judge Joanne nodded, expression unyielding. "Yes, that is the time set. The court has made its final decision." Sam's chest tightened, she could feel her heart pounding. She reached out instinctively, wanting to touch him to comfort him, though she knew the gravity of the sentence. Link's hands shook as he gripped the arms of the chair. I don't know if I can," he whispered. The doctor, standing nearby, stepped forward quietly. "Link, whatever happens, stay calm, focus on your breathing. I will stay with you as long as they allow it." Judge Joanne's gavel came down, bringing the brief hearing to a close. Court is adjourned. The sound echoed like a drumbeat of finality through the silent room. The weight of the sentence pressed down on everyone: Link, Sam, Dr. Smith, and the rest of the family, leaving a heavy, almost unbearable tension in the air. Sam walked into the house, her face pale and her shoulders tense. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee, and Billy and Max were sitting at the table waiting. She sank into a chair across from them. "The judge, she put John behind bars," Sam said quietly, "because he yelled at her in court." Billy frowned. "What about Link?" he asked, his voice low. Sam swallowed hard. He's scheduled to be injected tomorrow morning." Max leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "So, the jury didn't go easy on him?" Sam shook her head. "They didn't decide anything. There was no jury. The judge, she made the decision herself." Billy's face went pale. "No jury, she just decided? That's insane." Sam nodded slowly, her voice trembling slightly. "I know, and the worst part is Link doesn't even seem fully aware of what's coming. He's scared, but he's trying to act calm." Max slammed a fist lightly on the table, frustration spilling over. "How can they just decide that? What about all the things Dr. Smith said? The doctor said he was in autopilot, he didn't have full control." Sam's hands clenched together. "I know, Max, I know, but in the judge's eyes that wasn't enough to stop her from sentencing him." Billy leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "So tomorrow morning, Link, he's gone." Sam's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if there's anything we can do at this point." The room fell silent. Max and Billy both stared at the table, unable to move past the reality of what Sam had just told them. Sam wiped her eyes, trying to hold herself together, but the heaviness of the news pressed down on everyone. The morning sun poured through the courthouse windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Inside the courtroom, the tension was thick. John Parker stood before Judge Joanne, his head bowed slightly. His voice was quieter this time, filled with a mixture of shame and desperation. "Your Honor," John said, I apologize for my outburst yesterday. I shouldn't have yelled. I'm sorry." Judge Joanne's expression remained stern, but she nodded slightly. "Apology noted, Mr. Parker. Court appreciates acknowledgement of decorum." At the front of the courtroom, Link Parker sat, no longer in his wheelchair. He looked pale and tense, his hands resting limply on his knees. His eyes moved nervously, occasionally glancing at the door as if expecting the proceedings to start any second. Sam, Billy, and Max arrived on time, taking their seats just behind the main rows. Sam's eyes were red from the night before, and she kept glancing at Link, silently urging him to hold himself together. Billy and Max sat rigidly, their expressions tight with worry. The bailiffs moved quietly around the room, preparing the space for the session to begin. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as everyone in the courtroom waited for Judge Joanne to speak. Judge Joanne raised her gavel slightly. "Link Parker, the court will now proceed with your sentence." Link's hands trembled slightly. He swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest as he looked at Sam. She gave him a small, reassuring nod, her own face a mixture of fear and love. Billy and Max clenched their fists on the benches, trying to stay composed. The courtroom was silent except for the soft rustle of papers and the faint hum of the lights. Everything was poised on the edge of what was about to happen. The courtroom was eerily silent, every eye fixed on Link as the bailiffs led him to a small, reinforced area set up for the procedure. A sterile table with medical supplies gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Link's hands shook slightly as he was helped to a seat, his face pale but his eyes wide, darting to Sam, Billy, and Max in the audience. Sam leaned forward, her hand gripping the bench tightly. "Link," she whispered, voice trembling, "I'm here, we're with you." Link's lips quivered slightly. He nodded, trying to steady his breathing, though every breath felt heavy and shallow. The medical team entered quietly, their movements precise and clinical. Dr. Smith stood off to the side, his face calm but his hands tense as he observed the proceedings. Judge Joanne's voice broke the silence, firm and resolute. Link Parker, the court has issued the sentence. The procedure will now begin. Link's body went rigid for a moment, but he didn't resist as the medical staff gently guided his arms to the table. He glanced once at Sam, who mouthed the words, "I love you." Billy and Max exchanged a look, their faces pale and tight with tension. Sam's tears fell silently and she whispered, "Stay strong, it's almost over." The nurse prepared the injection, her hands steady, while the doctor gave a nod to the judge. Link closed his eyes, his thoughts spinning, memories of Vin, of his brother, of his own fears, regrets, and the moments he could never take back. A single breath, a quiet click of the medical equipment. Judge Joanne watched impassively, recording the procedure in official notes, while the family held their breath in unison.